I kind of wake up with the forest. I get up early in the morning just as the sun's coming up. The birds are singing, the kind of woods is waking up from the sleep that it was in. And then I go out and I light my syrup fires, and then I drink my coffee and I walk around and I check the sap buckets, kind of see how they were overnight, see if the sap's frozen, see if it's thawed. And I spend a lot of time in the woods. And the more time you spend in the woods, the more you see, the more you realize just how alive the forest is. So, I've been making maple syrup since I was 5 years old, right here in the same woods that I still make maple syrup today. And something that we did that not a lot of other people do is my mom always made sure that we asked the tree for permission to take the sap from it. And that's really garnered this really strong relationship between myself and the trees. It wasn't just something that we take from the tree. It was that we approached the tree as the living being that it is, and then we took the sap from it. And so that is kind of still part of the fundamentals today of making the tapped out small batch. Through the maple syrup season, you go through complete dormancy to the beginning of life again in the woods, and I really like that part. I really like that. I moved to Toronto and I was working in advertising. I was working 80-hour weeks on something that I didn't find meaningful anymore, and I just thought, you know, what is it that I want in life? And I just was trying to get back to the most happiest times that I'd had in my life. And it was making maple syrup. I come out of this winter sleep with the maple trees. But then I get to witness the very beginnings of spring, the very beginnings of the sap running in the maples, which to me is the first sign of life back in the forest. So I was sitting there at my desk thinking about all this, and I thought, you know what, I want to now and forever live a life where every year I can make maple syrup. And so I quit my job in advertising and I moved back home, and that spring I decided I'm going to turn what was a hobby and has been a hobby for almost, 17, 18 years at the time to a business. I had a lot of people tell me, oh, you should go buy an evaporator, you should get bigger, you should get lines. And I never did, and part of the reason was because I just really liked the process of cooking it over the fire. And I find that, it's human nature to get bigger, get more efficient, make more product in less amount of time. And the problem is that I find when you get the plastic lines, and then you get the vacuum pumps that pulls the sap, and then you get the RO system, and then you get the evaporator, I feel like you're no longer a maker. You're no longer making the maple syrup, you're producing it. And I look at maple syrup almost like an art form. I think that once you've gone to that producer level, you've kind of lost touch with the maple trees and with the forest, and you no longer spend your days in the woods walking around collecting sap. You just turn the valve at the end of the line and all the sap comes out. And so I want to stay being a maple syrup maker. My goal for making maple syrup is not to make the most amount of syrup in the least amount of time. My goal is to make the best tasting maple syrup possible. And I found that the methods that I have, which is cooking it outside over an open fire, still collecting the sap by hand, all of those things kind of adds to the special flavor that my maple syrup has. And because my syrup is exposed to smoke, it creates this smoky flavor and this very earthy tones to it where you don't get with the maple syrup that is done through an evaporator. My name is GFOERS and I make maple syrup. That's it.
That's it.
Simple.